Welcome to Sam Outside. I'm Sam and I'm outside. Taking a moment to breathe it all in, but I'm going to focus on using my nose. Yeah. I want to invite you to spend some time smelling nature. Yeah. There are a lot of folks, you probably have one in your life already that might not have a strong sense of smell. I've got a couple of people in my family that they've lost their sense of smell, right? They say sometimes it's one of the first things that goes. And yeah, what a shame. For me, spending time out in nature, there's a contrast daily with time of day and the seasons. It all change. What we're actually smelling, especially like in a rain after a rainfall or while it's raining, we all know that smell of fresh cut grass, right? It's a memory, right? And our memory is most strongly associated to our sense of smell, right? So we can all conjure. I mentioned the smell of fresh cut grass, and yeah, you can think about it. So one of the core practices in using our senses, we'll spend a moment. First invitation is to go through all your sensory work with your eyes closed. And then throughout the rest of a guided forest therapy walk, we'll invite people to take separate invitations to really focus on one of those senses in their own way. And one of the things I like to invite people to do is actually find something that they're comfortable identifying, right? So different tree species specifically. But yeah, a rainfall. It's known as petrichor. That's it's the release of volatile chemicals in the grass and the leaf litter in the ground that releases ozone. And so that's that very distinct smell. It's the ground preparing to absorb. And it's really dry, right? The pores in the actual leaves will open up, ready to receive water. All right. But for me specifically, the strongest, most identifiable smells are those of our coniferous trees, right? So it's essentially the oils. It's that's the part. And for that, you're not going to get the same when you walk up to a tree and just smell it, right? You're not really just smelling the air around it. But if I can take the leaf or the needle, but it is this tree's version of the leaf, and break off a small section, if I can expose the oil, so what I'll do is I'll invite people just to roll it in their thumb, right? Just break it up, and then that's where the smell is, right? It's the oils, right? Like the sap. Now the wood itself does have a smell to it as well. And if you're not able to find a space in nature to do it, man, just walk into a Home Depot, right? Stay away from the pressure treated stuff. But if you just walk down the row where they've got, construction material, 2x4 is right. That smell of spruce is very distinct. And then you'll walk down a separate aisle where they've got the pine shelving. That is a very unique scent. And then you can go to where they've got railings in other smaller sections of hardwood, and you can definitely identify. You don't even have to touch it. You can smell the oak. You can smell the maple. All right. Being an arborist, working a lot with chippers, man, my wife knew if I came home after a day of working in red oak, oh, it was pungent. All right. Poplar has a very unique smell as well. And of course, working in anything that's live and green. But one of my favorites, man, if I got a chance to work through a stand or a couple of trees that were yellow birch, that's a sweet smell. So it's like peppermint, right? As far as deciduous trees goes, it's the one that might have the strongest flavor. And again, if you're wanting to experiment or use your senses in a natural environment, finding a yellow birch and just using your thumb and scraping back the bark, you can smell that sweet peppermint, and then just use the flesh of your thumb to put that bark back and it'll heal itself. But right, walking through, if I'm comfortable, I'm going to identify balsam, right? Balsam fir like this, and it'll have a very different smell than the one I just experienced a moment ago, which was eastern hemlock, right? So, man, that smells like a Christmas tree lot, right? Most of our Christmas trees, like the cheaper ones anyway, they're going to be nice full balsam firs. And of course your spruce is going to have a very different smell. But again, just associated with memory. All right. Didn't even consciously make an effort there, just blurted out. It smells like a Christmas tree. That's the kind of tree I grew up with. We've had all kinds, but when our family goes out, we're looking for the balsam. So if you're in nature and you want to experience phytoncides. Phytoncides are the volatile chemicals, the byproduct of photosynthesis. As creates oxygen, there's also trace amounts of water. And with that microscopic amount of water that's coming out of that process are attached the tree's own essential oils. That's what phytoncides are. They're the essential oils within the tree. That chemical is how trees communicate. So they can't communicate on the wind. They're sending messages, right, about insects, about disease, warning, others of their kind that they should prepare for an invasion, that harden off, change your tree chemistry. Phytoncides are part of the tree's own natural immune system, part of their ability to heal and guard against invasion, whether it's a physical invasion, an insect damage, right? So something that can be studied, something that they have been learning about its effects on the human body. But even just going through, there's certain plants here on the ground as well. One of my favorites is this little leaflet, all right? Little waxy green perennial. It'll grow a little red berry. This is the wintergreen, and like wintergreen, for me, there's different gums, like one actually called wintergreen, but it's often the base flavor for toothpastes and things like that. So I use it in teas. It's a very aromatic little evergreen, often growing in and around the coniferous forest. But the cedar tree itself, the wood, the bark, all of it has a very unique smell. The eastern cedar itself, again, same thing, just rolling a little bit of that in your fingernails and smelling that. So after finding, depending on your forest, going through on a hot summer day, walking underneath these pines, you definitely get that. You can feel the heat. That dryness does bring out some of the essential oils out of that leaf litter, which is the pine needles. Has its own unique smell. And of course, when I get near water, right, all kinds of freshness. So the water itself, depending on, where that water is coming from, spring fed versus coming through a marsh. If I'm smelling sulfur and nitrogen, decomposing matter, it's going to have a very different smell than a lake, than a river. If you're near farm fields where there's runoff, you're going to get a very different smell there again, right? Different quality in the water. So don't be afraid to use your nose, right? So the volatile chemicals, the phytoncides that are falling from these trees as part of their communication process, they're landing on our skin, being absorbed into our bloodstream, connecting with our own immune system. That is the science behind forest therapy. We're inhaling them, getting into our lungs or in our sinuses, landing on the moisture that's part of our eyes. So it takes about 20 minutes in a coniferous forest to get to get a full daily dose. But on a guided forest air experience, if you can spend some time, up to 2 to 3 hours amongst coniferous trees, then you're good for the month. All right, your immune system is boosted. The studies show that the phytoncides actually connect as part of the tree's own defense. They connect with your own immune system, activating your NK cells, your natural killer cells. Those are the cells that target cancer-producing cells, right? Anything you talk about, tumors, scar tissue, things like that, just promotes healing, separation, management, and that is the science and the healing power of forest therapy. Spending time in the right mindset so your body can absorb it, right time, and you need the right forest. The science is based out of studies done in Japan in the 1980s, where it was the Japanese government that issued a mandate for the research using nature to deal with the stress of the culture in Japan at that time. So the studies were done on Japanese corporate employees who were literally just dying of stress. But all the studies were Japanese yews, Japanese coniferous trees, And they did some close studies where they took the same essential oils in hotel rooms, so they weren't in forests. And they showed them images, but the close study, when you're not exposed, just direct infusion into the air system of the phytoncides, they could track the results and track the healing and the promotion of healing, the decline of cortisol, and the power of phytoncides. And of course, some are more effective than others, but primarily based in coniferous trees. And so the organization that I chose to become certificated and associated with is a Canadian company known as GIFT, the Global Institute of Forest Therapy and Nature Connection. Their mandate is to not only train and promote forest therapy, but they also are into the science. They want to recreate the same studies on Canadians in Canadian forests, see if there is a difference, more than 45 years later. And again, there's just such a range, diversity, and we're only now beginning to understand the healing. So it'll be interesting to see how they compare. But there are governments all over the planet that have forest therapy trails. There are a lot of communities near you, parks that are managed by the town or by the state, by the province, by the township. You can find a forest therapy trail. It might not be guided, but they'll have plaques. So you can participate in forest bathing, which is the act of doing that on your own without a guide to hold the vessel for things like timing and safety and direction. But I myself had the fortune prior to becoming a certified guide, because it was cheaper to have a guided trail, forest therapy trail, created at my facility rather than to become a guide. It was a faster route. So I had the pleasure of working with ANFT, which is the Association of Nature Forestry. It's an American-based company. They do train internationally. And so I've been part of creating an accessible trail for the community, for an organization through the YMCA. It's something that I believe in. I know nature heals, and smelling it is a big part of it. So use your nose. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.